Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We will get started in just a few minutes.
If everyone wants to say where they're from while we wait for everyone to get in the chat.
Yes, we'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Queensbury, Greenfield. Great. Please enter everything into the chat, please. April Park. Thank you for sharing that you love that we do these. We appreciate that. Wilton. Oh, Carol, thank you so much for joining us. We always love to hear from you and about Grantville. I believe our mayor, John Safford, has joined us. So thank you, Mayor, for coming and seeing our program tonight. Again, as you tune in, if we'd love for you to share where you're tuning in from in the chat. Always nice to see some familiar names as well as some new names tonight. New York City, Concord, Mass. Nice to see Minxie and Jen tuning in. Clifton Park. Again, thank you everyone who's joining us. We're just going to wait a few more minutes just to allow people to hop on and get situated. A neighbor, Barbara Lombardo. Good to see you. Glad to see so many people tuning in. Another neighbor, love it. Again, any of you who have just joined, we'd love to see where you're tuning in from. If you want to say where you're tuning in from in the chat, we would appreciate that. You're not getting audio. Or you may need to turn on the volume of your own computer, your own speaker. Can others hear me? I believe so. Pompano Beach. Nice. All right. Well, I think we will oh, yes. There's a helpful hint there. Tell them to make sure that you join with your computer audio when it asks. New Jersey. Oh, friends, this is so much fun. And I'm not even a Dart family member, and I'm excited. Oh, this is great. Half Moon. Well, I think we'll get started. For those of you who do not know me, I'm Samantha Bosshart, the Executive Director of the Saratoga Springs Preservation Foundation. I am so excited about this program. I was saying earlier to Cynthia that I always wanted to hear about her father, and for whatever reason, I could never make it to any presentation. And so this has been a presentation that's been on my bucket list for a very long time. And so I'm particularly thrilled. Just a little bit about the foundation. Our mission is to preserve and enhance the architectural and cultural landscape heritage of Saratoga Springs. And we do that through advocacy, such as advocating for best preservation practices before the land use boards, as a public voice, through providing property owners with technical assistance, as well as doing educational programs such as that you see tonight. And then we also undertake restoration projects, like some of you may know our big Spirit of Life project that we did 10 years ago in partnership with the city of Saratoga Springs, as well as our project on 65 Phyla Street. And we will soon be doing our project at 128, 130 Clinton Street. We can't do the work that we do without our members. So if you are not already a member, I encourage you to become a member. And with that, I'd also want to highlight, for our slides, we're having a little highlight some of our upcoming programs. So Dine to Donate isn't necessarily a program. That's a fundraiser for us and a good excuse to go eat a great meal at Panza's restaurant. So would love for you guys, if you need an excuse to get out on a cold winter's night, Lord knows we've had many of those recently, please join us at Panza's, make a reservation. They'll donate 10% of the food and alcohol bill back to us. No, just food, right? Sorry. And then we're excited for March, which is Women's History Month. We will do a program on Sarah Smiley. Now, Sarah Smiley was the woman who built the Smiley Bracket Cottage at 166 Excelsior Avenue. And that is on our endangered list and has been for a long time. A fourth generation member of her family is going to present. The Smiley family was responsible for the Mohonk Mountain House. Some of you may be familiar with that. And we're going to talk about Sarah Smiley and her amazing path as a woman who became one of the first women to speak in a public setting in a church before men and women. Hard to believe that, and was a proponent of women studying the Bible without the help of men. So we're excited to present that program. And then our largest annual fundraiser is Saturday, May 10th from 10 to 4. It's our historic homes tour. And we have some great homes lined up for you in the North Broadway neighborhood. So please mark your calendar and I hope you will join us. But we can't do these important programs that tell so many different stories about our city and why it's important that we preserve not only the architecture and the buildings, but the cultural heritage and share that. And that's because of our members. And we appreciate the support that we not only get from the city of Saratoga Springs, New York Council on the Arts, our individual donors and our members, but our voice is always stronger when we have more of you behind us. So if you're not already a member, I encourage you to join. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sydney Hedge to introduce Cynthia. And again, thank you everyone for coming, and hold your questions till you can, as we go, you can put questions into the chat and we will circle back to those at the end of the meeting, or at the end of the presentation. And anybody who wants to share some of their memories about Clarence and the Dart family, we can also do that towards the end of the program. So again, thank you everyone, and I turn it over to Sydney.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sydney Hedge, the Preservation Programs Coordinator for the Foundation. I was lucky enough to be able to put this presentation together with Cynthia, as she is a close family friend of mine. Cynthia is the youngest of the 9 Dart children. She is a mother of 3. She's a nurse at the Saratoga Hospital, and I luckily am friends with, well, all of her sons, but one of my best friends is her eldest son. So this is really special. It's a good community event, and I think that I figured everyone would appreciate it and would want to hear Clarence's story and just see how it's right underneath our noses, this important history. And I'm glad it's such a great turnout. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Cynthia and she can get started.
All set? Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Cynthia. I, as Sydney said, the youngest of the Dart children. I'm very honored to do this. I know people probably have seen my brother do presentations in the past, and I hope I live up to your expectations. My version will probably be a little bit watered down, maybe not as in-depth as his. And as I've done it in the past at a school in Hudson Falls. I like to say that I'm telling you my family history and sharing a part of American history. So the starting slide here, why would these men fight for a country that fought so hard against them in peacetime? Well, I actually have the answer to that question from my dad. And I will answer that at the end of this presentation. Good. You can go to the next one. So my dad, Clarence Dart, was born in Elmira, New York, December 6, 1920. He went to Elmira Free Academy, and then from there, he went to ground school in Elmira, but he did work on the railroad with his dad's cleaning coal cars, which he said was not a fun thing, especially in the wintertime, because he had to go in to get the coal box and spray up a hose. And in the wintertime, if you didn't do it just right, you would get sprayed and you would work cold all night long, which was not pleasant, and you couldn't wait to get home. The schooling, he went to Oakland Aeronautical School in California post the war. And then from there, he came back east and went to Knowles Atomic Power Lab after working at GE's main plant and retiring from General Electric after 39 years and 2 months. He and my mother were married for 61 years. We can go on to the next one. So this is a picture of a model airplane that my dad actually built, a Curtiss Goshawk, that his mother actually entered into a show when he was younger. He didn't want her to because he knew there was mistakes, but she was so proud of the fact that he had built it. He didn't win anything for it, but this is one of the starts of his love of flying. And this is a picture of my dad and his father. My sister told me about it. And when she described it, I actually thought it was a picture of the two of them looking up at a plane, but it was not. But still just a nice picture to have, especially since it's one that I had never seen before. So the starting of enslaved Americans into the armed forces starts with Lord Dunmore, who was a governor of Virginia, and he had the Dunmore's Proclamation, which offered escaped enslaved people to become part of the British forces, forming the Ethiopian Regiment. On the Continental Army side, we had the black soldiers that became the 1st Rhode Island Regiment. You can go ahead. Oh, and another, we have, this is the Massachusetts Regiment. They were part of the Civil War. And they had a gallant yet failed assault on Fort Wagner. It had inspired over 100,000 to join armed forces and prove that black soldiers could be as effective as white soldiers. And then we have the Harlem Hellfighters of World War I that were part of the 369th Infantry Regiment of the U.S. Army. They fought under the French command and were among the first American troops to see action. And this is Eugene Bullard, who was a fighter pilot in World War I, but he did not fight for America. He fought under the French because Black Americans were not considered able-bodied to be a part of that service. And this is Bessie Coleman. She was the first African-American woman to become a pilot. She was actually a stunt pilot, and she broke the racial barrier and gender barriers in the early aviation history. And then this, Eleanor Roosevelt plays a part in this because she wanted a ride with one of the Tuskegee Airmen and was taken up by Charles Chief Anderson. My brother tells a story, whether it's true or not, that the Secret Service, there was a young Secret Serviceman and an older Secret Serviceman, and the young one said to the older one, "Should we call the president?" And the older one said, "I don't think he can tell her what to do." And Eleanor Roosevelt made this, brings to life the saying, "Well-behaved women rarely make history." And one of her famous quotes is, "The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams," which the Tuskegee Airmen did, and they made it happen. This is a picture of what Tuskegee Institute would have looked like back in 1941. And this is Benjamin O. Davis. He was a cadet at West Point, and he was also one of the first commanders of the Tuskegee Airmen. And this is Moulton Field, which became a National Historic Site back in 2008. So my father's story begins when he turned 21 and the bombing of Pearl Harbor. His mother had heard him and a friend talking about joining the armed forces, and she said that she would have nothing doing. And then my father had heard that the Army Air Corps would be coming through, and he decided that yes, he was going to try and make that happen. My father started out at Fort Sills prior to going down to Tuskegee, where he got trained in artillery, and he was quite good at it because he was good at math and the angulation. He was offered the opportunity to be promoted to second lieutenant, which he turned down because he knew what happened to them and he didn't want to go to the front lines. In doing so, his commanding officer wasn't overly thrilled with him because my dad told him, no, I'm going to fly. And at that time, my father, being so anxious, when he initially took the test, he failed the first go round because of his depth perception. He said he didn't get much sleep, and they told him to come back and try again in 8 months, which he did, and he passed. When he got the ability to go to Tuskegee, his commanding officer did not tell him right away and told him on a Friday, and some of his friends, they broke into an office, they forged some papers, which could have gotten them court-martialed, to get him down to the train station to head on out. And this is a BT, is it a 13? I can't see the number, but it was called a Vaulty Valiant, but my father named it the Vaulty Vibrator because it shook so badly when it was initially started. And this is a picture of my dad's graduating class, 43J. And this is something I learned from my brother, that the J is because it's the 11th letter. And my father was commissioned November 3rd, 1943. And this is a Texan T6. This is the second plane that my father started learning his flight. In one of my dad's flights, when he was up in the air, his instructor asked him if he knew how to get back to the field, and my father said, sure. And he pointed, and his instructor promptly turned the plane over, and they were over the airfield. This is a P-40 Warhawk. This is a plane that my dad flew in and was also one that my father was shot down in. It had a crank that the canopy would go back. And when he was shot down, he thought he had locked it into place, but when he hit, it did not and slid forward. But my father said he doesn't know where the strength came from, but he was able to stand up and push the canopy off. He said it was a good plane and he was very happy to have been in that plane when he did it. And this is a P-51 Mustang that my father flew in, and the red tails. And I have been asked why their tails were painted red. I do not know. And in an interview that I saw that my father was asked the same question, and my father did not know either. And this is my father's certificate for instrument flying. I'm not really sure why it's dated 1944, because I know that he did some instrument training prior to that, but maybe it's from when he became a flight instructor after, I'm not sure. And this is a P-51C. And my father flew wing with Elwood Driver. And this is a picture of my dad, and my dad is on the left. And then this is the 3-Minute Egg Club, which to my understanding, my father helped form, where it was when the men had very limited fuel left and pretty much had narrow margins to make it safely back to the airfield. And I'm kind of surprised that my father was part of this because my father was such a mild-mannered person. I wouldn't expect him to participate in a daredevil, which I think was a daredevil kind of thing. I've tried to Google to see whether this 3-minute egg club still exists amongst the flying, but didn't really get anything that other than it brings this picture back to say when it was formed and why. This is where my father first landed when he started his overseas after being trained at Moulton Field. He landed in Oran, Morocco. And then from there, I'm not even going to try and say the name where he landed in Italy, but I know at one of the I'm not sure if this is the first go around when he was in Italy. Mount Vesuvius erupted and the planes that were there were destroyed from the weight of the ash, breaking off the wings and the tails. And they had to wait about a week before they had replacement planes come in. So during this time, my father flew 95 missions. He was shot down twice. The first time was, I believe he said it was like his 5th time up, and that was in April of 1943, I think it was. I had it written down. And then he was, nope, 1944. He was shot down April 1944 north of Rome. And then he was shot down 2 months later in Anzio, Italy in June 1944. One of the second time he was shot down is when they were trying to get the guns that the Germans hid in tunnels of the railway. And it was when they flew over the first time and they did their shots and they didn't get return fire, did it a second time and didn't get shots. And my father said they should have just continued on, but they didn't. And they went a third time around. And that's when I believe this is the time that he said that the sky lit up like the 4th of July. Both times that my dad was shot down, he was fortunate enough that there was GIs in the area that were able to come to his rescue. My father flew a total of 45 missions with the 12th Air Force in the P-40, and then completing 50 missions with the 15th Air Force in the P-51 Mustangs. And that's when he was part of the escort of the bombers, and they were requested to be their escorts. My father earned 5 Distinguished Flying Crosses, Air Medal with 4 oak leaf clusters, and 2 Purple Hearts. Now, trying to educate myself, I learn a little bit more each time about this. I saw where there was one statement that said that my father earned a Purple Heart with an oak leaf cluster. So I Googled what the significance of an oak leaf cluster was, and it's because it's something that they've already earned. So the oak leaf cluster, I'm gonna gather that my father must have earned a total of 5 of the air medals if he's got the air medal with the 4 oak leaf clusters. And then he also received the Congressional Gold Medal of Honor along with the rest of surviving Tuskegee Airmen in 2007. This was in March of 2007, and I only know that so well because I was pregnant with my 3rd son, and I was very much counting on him to be early along with the way his older brothers were, and he decided to be late instead because I was counting on him to be early because I figured he would be at least 2 weeks and it would be safe to travel. But since he came late, it only left him being about 5 days old to be able to travel. So I did not get to go. When my dad returned from the war, he became an instructor, a flight instructor at Tuskegee. And then he moved up to Lockbourne Airport, where he became a squadron commander. And then from there, when he left the service is when he went to Oakland, California, where he went to the aeronautical school. And this is my dad, and I believe my brother said this was a Texan T6, but I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's the plane that he was in that was restored. And this is a picture of my dad in his original Tuskegee Airman leather jacket. It is hand painted. They're not really sewn on war patches, and my brother has that now. And this is a picture of my dad. The picture looks a little busier. I thought it was the picture from when my siblings and I had gotten my father for Father's Day a plane ride in a restored World War II plane back in 2002. And this is a picture of my mom and dad. I think it's probably before any kids. And then this is my parents at the ceremony of receiving the Congressional Gold Medal of Honor. And that is a replica. And just a little interesting fact about that replica. Initially, in order, they weren't going to get these medals. It was going to be $38 for them if they wanted a replica. And at that time, my father had received multiple letters from people when they found out with checks for my father to be able to purchase. And I forget I'm not sure if it was a foundation or how it came to be, but it wasn't necessary for the airmen to be able to purchase. They were provided for them. And this is Representative Gillibrand at the time with my dad and receiving a flag that flew over the Capitol. And this is, I know this is from 1999 when my dad was Marshal of the Parade, because it was taken the day after my wedding, or 1998, sorry, June 1st, 1998. And then this is from after my father had received the Congressional Gold Medal of Honor. There was a ceremony down at City Hall recognizing my dad. And this is a mural that's painted on a hardware store in Elmira, New York, my dad's hometown. That was a collective project of adult learners and students to inspire teamwork, community, and learning about the aspirations of the Tuskegee Airmen. And this is a bench that is located in Congress Park that my dad was honored with, I think 2 years ago. That's next to the War Memorial. And before we present this little moving video that Sydney found for us, I just want to share with March 21st is Clarence Dart Day in Saratoga Springs, which is kind of fitting since it is my youngest son's birthday, and he is the reason that I missed the ability to go down to that ceremony. So that is something that I found out in doing research. Now, that initial quote that you saw about why would the men want to fight, My father was asked this question when he did an oral history recording with Governor Pataki back in 2001, I believe. And he said he was presenting at an Aim High event, and a child stood up and asked him, "Why would you want to fight for a country that treated you this way?" And my father's answer was, "Because this is my country, this is my home, this is all I've ever known." And as much as he said that people, would like to associate themselves with Africa, that he has no connection to it. He says it's a beautiful country as he was there, but he has no significant connection to the country. And this was his home, so it was what he needed to fight for. And it's important to know that my father was very proud of what he did. I didn't learn of my father's affiliation with the Tuskegee Airmen until I was in my 20s. I'm trying to go back to really think about when I was actually actively aware of what it meant, of what he did. And I can tell you that I graduated high school in 1985, and I did not know. I don't even know that I knew through my college years. But when my father started speaking at universities and schools, I tried to get him to make me his manager so that he could start charging, and he would have nothing to do with it. I did get to hear my father speak to a school in Troy. I took him down, I think it was probably about 2008, 2009. And my sister Denise and I took my father to the dedication of Moton Field back in October of 2008. And it was awe-inspiring to go to the different areas and to see young Black military men that came up to my father. It was like he was the biggest hero going. The other significance that I have in connection with my father is my first flight was with my dad. So I get to say that my first flight was with a war hero. And my two older children also took their first flight with my dad and one of his friends, who came up to Saratoga County Airport and took my kids for a ride for well over an hour. They invited me to go along, but I figured it was something special that needed to be shared with them. My father was, if anybody knew him, was a very soft-spoken gentleman, and he never really talked about it. I'm still learning about the Tuskegee Airmen, but he did speak of the soldiers returning and being treated worse than German soldiers. He himself said he never experienced it, but some of his fellow Tuskegee Airmen did. And I can say that for anything that negativity that my father experienced during the wartime or after, my father never shared with us. He was always very positive, very accepting. Didn't matter who you were, what you look like, economic, skin color, or anything, you were accepted by us. And I'm very thankful that my father brought that to us, considering that the Tuskegee Airmen were considered not smart enough, that their craniums were too small. And the Tuskegee Airmen were considered an experiment, and the experiment was going to be at best unwarranted, and at worst a political intrusion, which I don't think it was much of an experiment, and I don't think it was a political intrusion. It led to the integration of the armed forces back in 1948 and opened up opportunities for many individuals, which I can only imagine makes it that much better for everyone. So I hope that I've done justice to my dad and that you've learned a little something, and you can always share anything that you know more than me. As I said, I'm still learning, and I am very grateful that I was able to present this to you, and hope you enjoy the following.
I remember when he used to tell me stories. He lift me up and place me gently on his knee. You know, his eyes would come alive with every tale he told, and every word he said was gold to me. Said he was lucky as a young man, got to live his childhood fantasy, learn to fly with his friends on a field in Alabama, and they became the best the world had seen. When the battle has begun, let me fly away, let me ride on silver wings across the sky, let me try today. We can make a difference if we work together. Let me fly. I asked him all about his red-tailed airplane. He used to roam the skies of Italy, making sure that every friend would make it through the fire, and he'd never let one fall into the sea. And he said, all I ever wanted was a moment in the sun. Don't make me hang around down on the ground when the battle has begun. Let me fly, let me fly away, let me ride on silver wings across the sky, let me try today. We can make a difference if we work together. Let me fly. God in heaven above, won't you hear my humble prayer when I join the battle? Go before me. Don't keep me from danger or hide me from the foe. All I'm asking for is the strength, oh Lord, to make it through the night. make me hang around down on the ground when the battle has begun. Let me across the sky. Oh, let me try today. And together you and I can make difference. Let me fly. Let me
Wow. Honestly, I don't have a lot of words. What a great presentation. Thank you so much, Cynthia. The comments that we're getting are quite amazing. Thanking you for your presentation, including recognition from your siblings and friends from near and far. I don't know if anybody has any questions, or Sydney, do you want to maybe read some of the comments?
Let me unmute myself. I don't know if anyone else got emotional, but it was so good.
This deserves a round of applause. Unmute us. That's easier probably said than done.
Can I unmute everyone? Oops. I can mess up the slides, that's for sure. Let's see.
Well, we agree that certainly does merit a round of applause.
What a wonderful lesson in history. Did you read this already?
No. Go ahead.
About honorable, courageous heroes who secured our freedom. Thank you for sharing such an amazing legacy. Thank you to our heroes too. Well done, Cynthia. Of all your father's many accomplishments, I scrolled away. I'm quite certain he was most proud of his beautiful family. Give my best to Denise.
I enjoyed learning about your father. What an exceptional human being. I thank him for his service, and what an excellent presentation.
Did you see Carol's comment?
Yes. I'm from Carol Daggs, who has also presented for us, which we always appreciate. I'm so very grateful to be receiving such a beautiful tribute to Mr. Dart tonight. Great job, Cynthia. I've enjoyed previous presentations, but I'm only just seeing the film tonight. Thank you for filling in the spaces where we get left out so often. Thank you for such a beautiful, blessed inspiration, especially during these very questionable times we are living in. Peace.
Very informative and moving presentation. Thank you, Cynthia, and the Preservation Society for sponsoring this.
I like
always in awe of Mr. Dart. Cynthia is one of my best friends since childhood. Wonderful presentation of a wonderful man, Karen, in Jacksonville, Florida.
Well, we appreciate everybody that tuned in tonight. And again, thank you, Cynthia, for taking time and to share your father's story. And just a friendly reminder of all of our upcoming programs, and having members like you helps us continue to offer these types of programs. So I encourage you to join. It provides you with discounts and supports our mission. And we hope to see you at a future program. But thank you, everyone,
for attending.
I hope you have a good evening.